In this video, we are going to learn about how to work with public group in Flow. We will be creating a record trigger flow, which helps us to dynamically add or remove members from a group. We will also create we will also use get records and create record elements in a flow. We will also learn about the significance of dollar record global variable and dollar record prior global variable. We'll try to use custom labels to do away with the hard coding values. So we'll just see how everything put together to build this business use case. So, so our chief sales officer in Unicorn Ltd would like the system to automatically add users to a public group with the name Customer Payment Receivables Group. So this is a public group that is created to manage the payment receivables team. Basically, this group will look into the customers that are having pending invoice for a long period. So for that purpose, a new public group has been created in the system with the name Customer Payment Receivables Group. And whenever a user is added with this profile Customer Payment Receivable Team, we wanted to include that team member into this group. So that is the first scenario. The second scenario is it is possible to change an existing user's profile from X to, from a profile X to customer payment receivable. And when that happens, we got to again put the user back to the team. And the third scenario is when an existing user's profile changed, when it is changed from a customer payment receivables team to something else, we wanted to remove the user from the group. So this is the scenario in front of us. Again, as an admin, without writing a single line of code, let us see how we can able to solve this problem. So I'm going to create a record triggered flow. So before I do it, what I've done is I've just created a profile already. As you can see, there is a profile called customer payments team. So now I can create a user and then attach this profile, to this user. So that is already created. And we do have a public group with the name Customer Payment Receivables Team. So this is the group name. Yeah. So as you can see, there are two users already present in this group. And I've also created a couple of custom labels because we don't want to hard code any values in the flow. So we wanted to keep all our values inside the static values inside the custom labels. So I just have two custom labels. One is to manage the group name. One is to manage the profile name, the customer payments receivable profile name. So let's see how we use these custom labels back in the flow as we start building the flow. To start with, I'll go to flow. I'll try to create a new flow. And this flow will be created on user objects. It's a record triggered flow because we wanted the user to get either added or removed, right, when a new user is created or existing user record is modified, right? So this is a classic case for record triggered flow, number one. And let's first select the user. Yeah. And let's say I want this, this flow to trigger when a record is created or updated. Yeah. So I'm going to choose action related records because I want to create, I want to add a user or remove a user from a public group, right? So this has to happen after, after a user is added or a user is updated. So that's the reason I'm just going to do action related records. You can just relate that as after save. Perfect. So now I have three cases, isn't it? If I just go back to the requirements, system should automatically add a user, right, to this group if the user is new. So how do I know whether a user is new or an existing user? Very simple. What we can do is we can just create a variable. We can create a formula variable, yeah, a register of formula. This will help me. The underscore is new user. So this will help me to identify whether the record that triggers this flow is a new user record or an existing user record. So what I'll do is I'll just choose a Boolean because I want it to be either true or false. And we do have a built-in function called ifNew. So this will help me to let me know that the record that triggers the flow is a new or an existing one. So check syntax, say done. So the first thing is I want to have a condition or a branching, or a decision element. So I just click on plus and then go to this decision and just say new versus existing. And I'll just say new, and I'm going to just say is new user. I'll just say it's true. Yeah. Let us also check the active status, the active status of the user. So the record that triggers the flow, this dollar record global variable hold all the values of the user record that has triggered this flow. So I'll use this dollar record dot, and then we'll look for this active. It should also be equal to true. So if the user that is being created, right, is a new user and it is active. So that's the first one. And the default outcome is if not, then you can safely assume that it is an existing user. Yeah. All right. So let's say that. So now we got two paths, right? One to handle new user, other one to handle the existing user. Let's try to handle the new user first. So the user being created, right? If the user has this profile, user has this profile, Customer Payment Receivables Team, then I would like to add the user into this public group, right? So first, let us check whether the user being added is having this profile, right? So how do we do it? So first, let's see. Again, there is a condition. I can just say decision again. Yeah, I'll just say check for profile, Customer Payment Receivables Team. That is the decision that I have to take, right? So outcome is um, I just say it's Customer Payment Receivables Team, receivables profile. I just say, yeah, and what I should do is I have to check whether the user record, is having profile. So we'll look for profile, yeah, and if the name of the profile contains, remember the label we just created, right? Because I don't want to hard code the profile name there. Instead, I can just make use of the label that was already created, yeah, the custom labels, so which will carry the profile name for me, which is carrying the profile name for me. So I'll just say whether the profile name contains this. If yes, then I know the user being added is having this Customer Payment Receivables profile. Yeah. Otherwise, right? I'll just say not a payment receivables profile. Yeah. So let's say done. Again, I see just two decisions, right? Now, now we got this checked. Yeah. And if it is not a receivables one, then I want to just end this flow right here. So I'll just I'll just add at this as well. Add at the end part. Yeah. So now the user is having this profile. Like we have to add the user to this, to the group, right? So how do we do it? So typically in Salesforce, when you go here, let me just go to the developer console. You go to open, and then if you just go to the objects, I will have two. I will have these two objects that hold all the information for me. So this will hold the group will hold all the information about the groups that are getting created, right? So in our case, I created this customer payments receivable group. So you do have this information right here, right? It's of type regular. So I do have another object called group member. So this will hold all the details of about the members of this group. So this is very simple to create, as you can just see. All I need is the group ID and the user ID. That's it. Once I create or add a record into this, right, then I can, then the system will automatically, right, add the member to this group, right? So I'm going to insert a record into this group member using this flow. So this way I can able to write, I can able to ensure that the user is added. But one thing is, I do have to figure out the group ID, isn't it? From the group name, because what I do have in my and right now is the group name. I do have this name of the group. I don't have this ID. So first I need to find the ID and then use that ID and then get that ID right added to this group number. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do it now as a next step. So let's go back to the flow builder. We'll first check. We'll first use this get records. Yeah. And we'll just say get group ID. So I'm just going to query this group object, and I'll just say if the group name, right? The group name contains, again, I have to hard code the group name here, but I don't have to do that because I do have the group name already configured back at my custom label. So this is my group name, right? So this will help me to get the one record, the first record, right? And I would let Salesforce to store automatically all the values in this the single variable. As it done. So that's it. A new single record variable has been created. So now all I have to do is I just have to, get the ID from this group and then, insert record into the group member object. So as a best practice, always, check whether this as written, is null or, it is having a record. So that's a best practice. Okay, no. So what we do is, right, we do add a decision. We will just say check if group exists. Yeah. So we'll just say group exists. And how do I know that? The previous step, which is this, and just say if this is if null is false, group not found. Okay. So again, I do have two parts. If the group is not found, I don't want to continue, and then I'll just simply end this flow. I'll just finish the flow. The group exists, right? Then I would like to add, right, or create a group member. So I'm going to use create records. I'll just say add user to the group. So perfect. And now I'll just say yes. So we're going to add user to the group. So what I'll do is I will say, let me just choose what information that needs to go into group member object. So it's going to be a group member. Yeah. So I'll just say the group ID has to come from the previous step, right, where we retrieved the group ID from the group name. So we do have a single record variable, isn't it? Single record variable. From here, you can just simply take the group ID of the group. Perfect. And also we do need to map the user, right? User or group ID is the field name, and I do have my global variable record. So this will give me the ID of the user being created, right? So that's it. This is cool. So now we got this one, added. This part one is completed, right? Or the scenario one is completed. Then there is a new user. We are adding the user to the group, right? So this is cool. So this is done. The first one is done, and yeah. So let's check the second one, right? Let's say the second one for the existing user. So in existing users case, there are two things is possible. One is existing users profile, changed from X profile to customer payment receivables team, or you pick an existing user and then change the profile from customer payments receivable to something else, right? So we got to handle both the scenarios. So we'll just try to address this one first. System should ensure the user is added to the public group when an existing user's profile is updated as customer payments receivable team. So how do I do it? So same thing, we just for existing user, right? We'll just check for whether the profile data is changed. Yeah. So I'm gonna add a decision here again. Yeah. So is profile changed? Because I want this to happen only when the profile is changed, right? Is profile changed? So I just say profile changed to customer payment receivables. Yeah. And this is my first path. And how do I know? I can just use this record and just say is if the profile, right? If the profile, let me just do it again. Not let's use a global variable. Yeah. So global variable record, and then let's look for the profile. And if the profile name is changed, if it is true, yeah, if the profile name is changed and the profile name contains, remember I don't have to hard code, right? Because I do have this information already stored in a label. It's a profile name. So if the profile name is, profile name is customer payment receivables, then I need to add user, correct? So I'll remember that I need to add user. So what is the next, scenario, which is, I just add another scenario where file changed from customer. So this is more like, you have an existing user and you are changing the profile from customer payments receivable to, something else. So again, let's do the same thing. Let's say record dot profile. If it is, if the name is changed, yeah, if the name is changed, if it is true, yeah. And this is where I'm gonna make use of the prior record. So this is an existing, existing user we are dealing with, right? If that existing user's previous, profile, right? So how do I access before the changes, right? How do I access the original value? So I can certainly use this record pair. So this is the significance of record pair. This will hold the previous value before it was updated. So I'm just going to check whether the the previous one, right? The profile name, the original value of the profile, if it is if it is customer payments receivable, then I can safely assume that the profile has got changed, right? As in the user has been assigned to a different profile, right? So in this case, I want to remove the user. Yeah? So profile changed, right? And I'll just say other profile changes. So in this case, right, I don't have to do anything. So in this case, now I can just see, three paths created, right? So profile change to, profile change from, and other profile changes. So in this case, yeah, I don't have to do anything, just end. So let's do this. Profile change to change again. In this case, I want to add user, isn't it? So just the same. I want to repeat the exact steps. Yeah, I have to repeat the same exact steps, right? Like getting the group ID and then checking if the group exists and then add the user. So instead of just repeating the entire steps, right? What I can do is I can just connect. I can connect, these two elements. So let's just see how we can do it. So on click of plus, I do an option called connect to element. Just select this one, and the system will say that select the element to connect to. What I'll do is I'll just select this one. So now you can see this, right? when a profile exists for an existing user, when a profile is changed. So I will just start from here, as in, get the record, get the group ID, and then, see if the group exists, and then add the user. So this way I don't have to repeat the same exact steps right here. Okay, so this is a great way of connecting, connecting two different paths, right, instead of flow. Yeah. And in this case, when the profile is changed from, in this case, I want to remove the user, right? So I got to repeat the steps now. So there is a better way to implement this. I'll put up a separate video where we can just consolidate all the common steps right into an auto launch flow, and then combine, and then do it in a much better way. Okay, so I'll do a separate video on that, but for now let me try to repeat. We'll go with this flow and try to complete this. So in this case, again, this is third scenario where a profile is changed from customer receivables team. So this case, let's try to first, this is get records, and I will just say get record ID, or I'll just do this. I'll just click, I'll just copy, I'll just add this. So this will get me, a new group ID. I'll just remove this one. Yeah. So it will get the group ID for me. And once this is done, I can use delete records. So I do have a group ID now. What I can do is, I can just say delete user from group. So I'll just specify conditions, and I want the user to be removed from group member. Yeah. So the condition is the group ID is the one that needs to come from the previous step. Group ID is equal to this dot ID. Yeah, and the user ID should be equal to, from the global record variable, I can just get the user ID. Perfect, done. So that's it. My changes are done. So let's first save this and then see how it works in action. Let's just say this is my record triggered flow. This is for add, remove user from, let's just say public group, add, remove user. Let's try to save this flow, and let's activate. Perfect. Let's try to create a new user and then see how it works. So let's go to users. Let's try to create a new user. Kate Williamson. Let's say Kate @ unicornltd.com, and let's assign the profile customer payments receivable team. Yeah, it's active. Let's say save. So now user has been created. Back to the public group. Let's cross check. Perfect. As you can see, right, Kate has been added to this public group, correct? Now let's do this. Now Kate Williamson is an existing user, right? Let's check the other two conditions. Okay. So let me edit, and let me just change her profile from standard, from the customer payments receivable to standard platform user. So in this case, I would like Kate to be removed from the uh, groups, right? From the group. So let's save and then see what happens. Perfect. Now she has got a new profile, correct? So let's go back to the public group and refresh. Perfect. Now Kate has been removed, right? So which means now our flow is working perfectly fine, right? So again, right, this flow, we can optimize this in multiple ways. So we can create an auto launch flow and then just move all these steps, right? Adding or removing users, and then make it generic so that I can able to just use record trigger flow as an entry point and then get this done instead of writing a big flow, something like this. Yeah, so I'll do a separate video on this. Yeah, but for now, we just accomplished the requirement, as in now we know how to use a record trigger flow and how to use a public group and then add or remove members dynamically. So along the way, we did learn about few things. We know how to use this record prior global variable, which holds the entire data about the previous value, basically previous value of all the fields that triggered the flow, right? And also we did use custom labels and just to do away with the hard coding any values, right? So with that, we'll close this one. Thank you so much again.